Right now, make a tiny decision. Lift your left hand or your right, whichever you want. It feels completely free, a choice made by you in this exact moment. But here is the unsettling part. In a lab, a scientist watching your brain could have known which hand you'd pick. Several seconds before you felt like you decided, the decision was already made. You were just the last to find out. This isn't science fiction. It's some of the most disturbing research in all of neuroscience. And once you see how these experiments work, the feeling of free will starts to look like something your brain hands you. After the fact, the story begins in 1983 with a scientist named Benjamin Libet. He wired people up to a machine that reads electrical activity in the brain and gave them one simple task: whenever you feel like it, flick your wrist. He also asked them to watch a fast-moving dot on a clock and remember the exact position of the dot at the instant they decided to move. So now Libet had 3 timestamps: when the brain started, when the person felt the decision, and when the wrist actually flicked. Picture 3 dominoes falling. Common sense says the order is obvious. First you decide, then your brain acts, then your hand moves. Decision, brain, motion. That is what free will feels like, but that is not what Libet found. A wave of brain activity, called the readiness potential, began building about 1/3 of a second before people were aware of choosing anything. The brain committed first, the feeling of deciding came late. Read that again because it's easy to miss. Your conscious decision was not the cause of the movement, it was more like a news report, arriving after the event it describes had already begun. For decades, people argued about Libet's half-second. Then in 2008, a team led by John Dylan Haynes made it far, far worse. They put people inside a brain scanner and gave them a free choice. Press a button with the left hand or the right whenever they wanted. Meanwhile, a computer analyzed the patterns lighting up in the brain. The computer could predict which hand a person would choose, up to 7, sometimes 10 full seconds before they consciously made up their mind. Imagine a fortune teller who knows your choice before you do. Except the fortune teller is a machine reading your own brain. 7 seconds is an eternity in the mind. In that gap, you would swear you hadn't decided anything yet. You'd feel open, undecided, free. And the whole time, the answer was already written in your neurons, waiting for your consciousness to catch up. So what does this mean? One interpretation is deeply uncomfortable: the you that feels like it's steering. The voice in your head making choices might not be the driver at all. Instead, decisions may bubble up from unconscious brain machinery. And then, a fraction of a second later, your conscious mind is handed the result. Along with a comforting little story: I chose this. This was me. Think of a rider on an elephant. The rider believes he is steering. He gives orders, he feels in control. But the elephant is enormous and mostly goes where it already wanted to. The rider's real job is to explain afterward why they went that way. Your conscious self may be that rider, brilliant at telling stories, convinced it's in charge, but often just narrating decisions that were already made somewhere down below. Now, before you panic, Libet himself offered a strange sliver of hope. Yes, the impulse to act arises before you're aware of it. But there was still a small window, a few hundred milliseconds, between the urge and the action, and in that window, he believed you could veto it. You might not freely start the impulse, but you could freely stop it. Scientists nicknamed this free won't. It's a small thing, but it might be everything. The craving to check your phone rises on its own. The angry word forms before you choose it. You may not control the urge appearing. But in that last instant, you can slam the brakes. Maybe free will was never about starting the impulse. Maybe it's the power of refusal. Not the gas pedal, but the brake. Here is the strangest question of all. If your brain decides first, why do you feel so certain that you decided? Why the illusion? Because that illusion is useful. A creature that feels like the author of its actions plans better, learns from mistakes, and takes responsibility. Evolution didn't need you to be the true cause of your choices. It just needed you to feel like it, so you'd stay in the game. So you are, in a sense, a magnificent storyteller, living a fraction of a second behind reality, weaving a seamless tale in which you are always the hero who chose. And you never notice the delay. None of this means you're helpless. Your unconscious brain is still you, shaped by everything you've ever learned, practiced, and paid attention to. Train it well and better choices will bubble up on their own. You're not erased by this science, you're just deeper and stranger than you thought. So here's my question for you, and I really want your answer in the comments. Think of one decision you made today that you were absolutely certain was your own free choice. Now, are you still sure? Tell me below. And if this rewired how you think about your own mind, subscribe. Because we are only getting started exploring the machinery underneath.